Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Rainer, this is Rainierbooks. Today I have another review for you because I finished a very short novel that I've read on Friday and Saturday, actually, and today is Sunday. And I'm going to talk about Graham Swift's new novel, I'm talking about Graham Swift's new novel, Here We Are. So let's get started. Have you ever been to Brighton in England? Brighton is a town with 290,000 people, and it is situated on the Channel coast of England. And it is a seaside resort that has a long history, a long tradition. And the Brighton Palace Pier, one of the classic landmarks of Brighton. It's also one of the classic landmarks, I think, of the United Kingdom. And the characters of our story, they are working on this pier in the summer of 1959. That is where the action of the novel Here We Are by Graham Swift is placed and situated. The Brighton Palace Pier today has a lot of slot machines, some restaurants, and you can walk out on the pier I think about 150, 200 meters probably into the sea, and you have a beautiful and marvelous look on both the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, which is very short, of course, because France is on the other side, but you also have a beautiful look at the city of Brighton. Brighton is both one of the poorest and one of the richest cities in the United Kingdom. You find both sorts of people there. The difference in income is very, very huge. The Brighton Palace Pier was opened in 1899, and it replaced two other piers that had been there before. The West Pier actually existed a couple of decades later on, but the Brighton Palace Pier, which was very central, was the major entertainment pier in Brighton. And many tourists who came to Brighton went on the pier to eat, to play the slot machines, and even to go to the theater. The theater was working from 1911 to 1973 on the Brighton Palace Pier, and lots of people performed there who are pretty famous in the world. For example, Charlie Chaplin did one of his first gigs, one of his first tours was on the Brighton Palace Pier. Stan Laurel, who became a world famous celebrity together with his partner Oliver Hardy, performed on the Palace Pier. And much later in the history of the palace, in the 1990s, the Spice Girls did one of their first shows on the Palace Pier. But the theater, which was at the end of the pier, was only used between 1911 and 1973. And people still go there. I think they have 4 million visitors every year on the Brighton Pier, still in 2019, of course. Here we are, discussing Here We Are by Mr. Graham Swift. This is my first meeting, sort of, with the work of Mr. Graham Swift, who is 71 years old. He is a very accomplished British author, English author, born in London in 1949, has lived most of his life in London, and has written novels that really have become part of the canon of British literature and even are almost obligatory in school. Waterland was a novel that he published in 1983 and that has become almost a classic, a book that is both read at universities when you study English literature today or in school. He also won the Booker Prize very early in his career for his 1996 novel, Last Orders. And that's why he might also be a candidate for at least the long list of the Booker Prize of 2020 with Here We Are. This book was published in, I think, February, March by Scribner in London. And it has this beautiful cover that I have shown already in a book haul earlier. And there's a parrot on the cover. And the parrot's name actually is, what do you think? Ernesto? Carlos? No, it's Pablo. The parrot's name is Pablo. We have three characters in the novel. Three characters. There are two men. This is Ronnie Dean. This is Jack Robbins. And we have one woman, and her name is Evie White. Three main characters of the novel. Ronnie is a magician. He is performing on the Brighton Palace Pier in the theater in 1959 in a show together with his beautiful assistant Evie White. And the conferencier, I think the conferencier of the show, his name is Jack Robbins. Jack Robbins, who always has different girlfriends and whose girlfriends are always called Flora. And Evie and Ronnie, they are making jokes about these Floras. Things happen in this summer of 1959 that changed and determined the lives of all of these three people. It's a triangle, it's a love story, it's a Jules et Jim, it's a very sparse novel. It has only, I think, it's a very sparse novel. It's 195 pages. Here we are, by Graham Swift. And I read one review that really hit the core by saying that another lesser talented author might have written 500 pages and produced a novel like Here We Are. But Graham Swift is a master. He really is a master. I enjoyed so much reading this book. It's a love story between Ronnie and Evie, the magician and his assistant. They are engaged. They are supposed to marry. But things turn out differently in that summer of 1959 when they perform in the Brighton Palace Theatre with their show. And actually the only one who is still alive, and that's no spoiler, who might be still alive, we don't know actually, is Evie White. Because we meet Evie both in 1959, and we also know that she is preparing for a lunch in 2009, 50 years after the events on the Brighton Pier in 1959. And Evie is living in London now, and she is reminiscing things that have happened in the summer of 1959 that have determined her life. And I actually, one of the questions to ask that this novel is asking is, Ronnie Dean is the magician who is the central character of this novel. And Ronnie is a young boy who has grown up with his mother in London, in Bethnal Green. His mother is a charwoman. I actually had to look that up. It's a woman who was working part-time cleaning other people's houses. His father is alive in the beginning, but he's not that much interested in little Ronnie. And Ronnie and his mother live in very easy and very simple surroundings in London. And when the war comes and when the Germans start bombing London, many English kids were brought from London. Many London kids were brought from London to the countryside to stay safe there. And Ronnie is sent, I think he's 8 years old at that point. Ronnie is sent to the countryside, to Oxfordshire, to a mansion of a middle-class family called Evergreen. And Ronnie suddenly is in a totally different environment. He has a totally different second childhood. Ronnie is enjoying his new environment. He's learning so much. He sees animals, he sees flowers, he sees lawns, he sees things that he hasn't seen before in the 8 years of his life. And he has his step-parents, if you want, the people who guard him through the war years, through the 5 or 6 war years that he's staying there in Evergreen, becoming a young teenage boy. And Eric Lawrence, the stepfather, the guy who takes care of him, he is a magician, and he teaches Ronnie to do his first tricks. And Ronnie becomes a magician after that. And he returns to his mother after the war, but he's never able to sort of establish a relationship to his mother. And there's also one incident in his childhood that is very important. He had a parrot that was named Pablo, and a parrot that he really loved. Pablo is the parrot that Ronnie has in London, but one day his mother just sells the parrot. She never liked it, and she also probably has problems buying food also for a third living being in that little flat in London, Bethnal Green. So she sells the parrot without Ronnie knowing about it, and Ronnie is very devastated and very, very sad. And maybe this is one of the key things for his relationship to his mother. Many years after that, we are in 1959. That's the summer of 1959. Ronnie is a magician. He's a grown-up man. He is in his 20s. He is 28 years old, exactly, in 1959. And he's working on the pier. He needs an assistant. And Jack, his friend Jack Robbins, helps him to find an assistant, and this assistant is young Evie White, a young woman who is looking for engagements, looking for jobs, and they very soon develop a working relationship together, and they even get engaged, and she wears his engagement ring. Ronnie and Evie, they are supposed to marry, but on stage they are Pablo and Eve. That's the stage name of them. And during that summer, something changes, because then, no, I don't want to spoil you actually with things that you shouldn't know, because you should read this novel. It's a marvelous novel. Things change, and in the end, Evie gets married to Jack, and Ronnie is not around anymore. That is not a secret. That is revealed pretty much in the beginning of the novel. But what happened exactly, that is up to you to read yourself. Graham Swift tells this story with an incredible lightness. It's like a summer breeze, a beautiful summer breeze. And the most beautiful thing I could imagine yesterday when I finished that novel was sitting at Brighton Beach, somewhere on a park bench, somewhere on a bench, not a park bench, on a bench, looking at the sea, looking at the Brighton Pier, and reading this amazing, beautiful novel. And I will read it again when I come to Brighton. I promise I will take it with me if we ever travel again in these times of the coronavirus. So what is this novel about? What's the underline? It's very light. It's very easily told. He has a beautiful style of narrating that it really struck me with lightning. It's short. It's a short novel. It's easy language. You really have to take care of every sentence, of every paragraph. And Swift is working with a lot of questions, because Evie is sitting there 2009 preparing for dinner with a friend, lunch or dinner with a friend. And she is reminiscing a lot of the things that happened before. And this is a novel about secrets, about things that we tell each other, things that we don't tell each other. It's about making decisions, and it's about thinking about those decisions maybe even 50 years after you made the decisions, and about destiny, and could things have taken another turn if I had made that decision like 10, 15, 20, 35 years ago, depending on how old you are right now. So this is it's really evoking a lot of questions. And when I finished this novel, when I finally finished that novel last night, I was almost bursting into tears, that I can tell you. But there's a small paragraph that I want to read you from, to get a little bit of the tone in which Graham Swift, who really is a master of writing, has set this novel. And this is more out of the perspective of Jack Robbins and Evie White. Early September. Exactly 50 years ago, the show had closed. The end of the season, the crowds departing, the light on the waves changing, the waves themselves, even in the way they gnawed at the beach. Seeming to know something, time to stack up the deck chairs and put them away. September 1959, when she and Ronnie should have got married. Let's give it the season, let's give ourselves and the act the season. And wasn't their act by that September, even by the middle of August, quite something, a success? What couldn't they do next? There was something else Jack had said to her when it all happened, when Ronnie was with his mum, or as it had turned out, not exactly with her. He'd said, "Don't you think, Evie, that all this stuff, the pier, the show, the whole bag of tricks, it had its day? It's not what they'll want for much longer. The future elsewhere, don't you think?" And it's a lot of nostalgia in that. It's a lot of longing in that. And I really adored this novel. And I would give it 5 stars if I would give stars. You know, I don't give stars, but sometimes I talk about stars. So please bear with me. This is Graham Swift's novel, which you absolutely should read. It's small, it's short, it's beautiful. It has the most beautiful cover that I have seen this year so far. And it hopefully will appear on the long list of the Booker Prize in a couple of days. And I will shoot another video today, probably publish it tomorrow, about some predictions, my first Booker in advance. video, yes, because I'm analyzing the Booker Prize and tried to make some predictions about who might get it. And not who might get it, that's much too difficult to do, but who might be on the long list. This was Graham Swift's Here We Are, published by Scribner. Scribner actually is this publisher. Let me take a look on my Booker notes here. Scribner is a publisher that has had 2 books on the long list in the last 5 years of the Booker Prize, which entitles them to make 2 submissions to the Booker Prize. But they also can submit, spoiler alert for my Booker video, they also can submit every author that has been shortlisted whenever for the Booker Prize. So they could have submitted Graham Swift without a problem, without going on to their quota of 2 books to publish, to submit to the prize. Thanks for watching today, and hopefully you subscribe to my channel. Hopefully you drop me some comments. Thanks for watching this, and bye-bye. Have a good day, and see you soon.